Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Testimony Strong, sponsored by VET S.O.S. I'm your host, Chase Hawkins. And here on this channel, we are all about the 99 going to find the one. We do this by sharing our testimonies, and it's just our way of sharing the gospel to fellow brethren. And today we have a great guest. He's a dear friend of mine. He's somebody that has been in my personal walk with Christ. Mitch Roberts, incredible testimony. He's a Marine veteran, so he chose right. Always got to rep the Marines. But he's had two combat deployments, and through those combat deployments came a lot of different trials that he had to go through, which led into some of the actions. And I'll let him share more about his testimony. But through that, he ended up finding Christ in a group of men, and it just a miraculous turnaround on how Christ served his life. So, Mitch, brother, I turn it over to you. How are you doing this week?
Chase, I am doing phenomenal. I'm doing what I always say is I'm doing better than I deserve with choices I've made in life and where God's brought me. He's had a lot of grace and mercy with me. So I'm
Yes,
thankful for that. But I'm going to do
that's
one
awesome.
correction because I do not want to ever be called out for stolen valor. I've had one deployment to Fallujah, Iraq,
Oh, got
not
you.
two. But because I know when we deal with veterans, right? Stolen valor
Yes,
is
yeah,
a big deal. So I just want to
yeah.
make sure that I got that
Correct
correct.
that. I got you. All right. No, I apologize. I read that wrong in the intro then.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Simple mistakes, right? Everybody doesn't know
Yeah,
everybody's
yeah,
story in complete
yeah.
detail. So. But yeah, so I'm doing better than ever. It's Good Friday today, and so
Yes.
it's just surreal being on here, knowing what the Lord's done for us, and for everybody, what He
Yeah.
did for everybody. But then, we both have our own individual walks, and what He's done for us each individually too. Not just what He's done on the cross, but since then too in our lives. It's just a
Mhm.
blessing to be here today to talk about Him and give Him glory, but also talk about our journeys too that we've been on. So.
Yes. No, and I appreciate that, and 100%. Every walk is different. And I'm just kind of curious, when did your walk actually start? Was it, did you grow up within a church household? Was that like something that was actually instilled in you, or is that something you found later in life?
Yeah, great question. So I grew up in a family that attended church every Sunday. We were the type of family that you'd do the Sunday in the morning, then you'd have Sunday
Hmm.
school in the afternoon, and then many times we even go back in the evenings. Which the evening ones was always like, oh, you could wear blue jeans, or oh,
Yeah.
you got to dress down a little bit, and then
Yeah.
Wednesday night like youth group type stuff or catechism type things.
Hmm.
And that's what I grew up in. So, and we read the daily bread before dinner at night as a family, before we ate
Hmm.
or after we ate, read the daily bread. Father would pray before the meals. I mean, I grew up around church. Uh,
Hmm.
the Baptist upbringing for the early years and then non-denominational later. But I'll be honest with you, as a kid growing up in it, you just hear like the Noah and the Ark stories, Jonah and the whale, and
Yeah.
it's just it's neat and it's fascinating. It's like, hearing some sort of fairy tale.
It's
Um,
like a cool story in that sense, right?
yes, and that's how you
Yeah.
perceive it, I think, as a kid. And then,
Hmm.
when I got to, like, middle school age and, the hormones kicked in and stuff like that, you're paying less attention to what's being said in church and more into the
Hmm.
girls around you.
Yeah.
And so you're kinda showing up at church to see the pretty girls, and so you're not thinking about those things.
Yeah.
Came a point when I was in high school, though, that I did start getting passionate about who Jesus is, what Jesus has done. I had a very good youth group I was involved with, and I was even like when I was in high school, I would lead the junior hires, lead junior hire youth group,
Mm-hmm.
mentor. But the problem is during that time, I had a youth pastor who ended up being gay, and I was very close to him. He was like a best friend to me, and
Hmm.
we did a lot together. And we got called into the church to let us know that he had a crush on me, and there were some things that went on. He put me in some very compromising situations looking back on it, and I knew at that
Hmm.
time, bringing me to the gym, and the showers and all the changing room and all that stuff.
Hmm.
And so I got angry. I got very
Yeah.
angry, very hurt. I was very ashamed and embarrassed. Um, like when you're at that age and you've already dealt with some bullying going on and stuff like that, and then you're worried about if people find out about this, even though I didn't do anything wrong, you're worried how people would perceive you. So I was angry at God, I was angry at the church,
Yeah.
and I kinda checked out, like,
Yeah.
said, "To heck with this, now I'm just gonna go live my life and do it this way because I was following God and this is what happened,
Mhm.
so now I'm gonna
So it
go live."
made your idea of religion or God essentially a lie, like it was more or less like some form of platform rather than, an actual aspect to base a life on.
Yeah, I did there was no relationship with God, and what I saw in the church, because I saw churches split, I saw
Mhm.
people getting angry at each other in the church,
Mhm.
and then, to have this youth pastor situation come about, and the fallout from all that even, and then people getting separated because some people kept following that youth pastor, guys my age, that
Mhm.
stayed friends with him, and then, that I'm ousted from things, and then it was just a huge mess, and so I'm like, all the churches to me at that time then was a place of pain and causing dissension and tearing people apart in friendships and causing a lot of problems, so
Yeah.
I just said, "To heck with this," if that's what it's all about,
So
and
where did
that's
that where did that lead into? Because obviously, it was a climb of essentially of being with essentially within ministry, right? Like you were about serving. And then for an event like that to happen, to essentially just be completely down, like completely turned away from any aspect of religion or church or God or what where did that lead your life?
so that led me into living for Mitch. I
Hmm.
became, in a sense, looking back and how I see how idolization works, I
Yeah.
became my own God. I was gonna do what I wanted to do. I was gonna fulfill my needs any way possible, and so that led to drugs, alcohol, chasing girls, having relationships that were not godly with a woman, um,
Hmm.
and stuff like that, and so I felt like I had to prove that I'm a man, so fighting, drinking, partying, being with women, and trying to be the center of attention and all that stuff, I mean, that's what filled my life, all the worldly things.
Yes.
I'm going to completely feed my flesh and do the things that the world says make a man rather than what
Mm.
God calls a man in the ways that he wants you to live your life. So
Gotcha.
it was a
No.
complete 180, complete opposite of everything that I believe and
Yeah.
see now. Um,
Yeah. If one way is not working for you, you're going to do the other, right?
but that's what I mean, what a Satan want to do. He wants to hurt you when you're young. He
Yep.
wants to get you derailed young because it changes the whole trajectory of your life. And you're already young and
Hmm.
impressionable and trying to
Yep.
figure things out. And so, yeah, I followed what the rest of the world was doing because on MTV, spring break and all that stuff that you see going on, it looks like everybody's pretty happy doing that stuff.
Yeah. World seems cool.
Yeah. So I was like, hey, if that's what brings happiness and it looks fun and exciting, then let's go indulge in that. And I'm an intense guy. So when I do things, I go like all in and
Mm-hmm.
you know, ride it till you fall off the rails type of go. And
Exactly. Yeah.
that's what I did with my life from that point on, from my late teens and to my early 20s.
Okay. So it kind of in that early 20s range, going along these paths. Obviously they're destructive in nature, but they're world fulfilling, right? So like you can
Yeah.
have those high points of feeling good because, like, I mean, we can't lie on this, right? Is like, sin is essentially can feel good to an aspect, but it's not fulfilling, right?
Yes.
It's a flick of a switch high.
Yeah.
Um, and so I guess life point, how do I say this? Where are you kind of sitting at from like kind of into that young adulthood? What's your objective on life? Where are your goals? What was your ideal? And then how did that transition? Because you haven't reached the Marine Corps yet, correct? You haven't
Cor-
enlisted.
Correct. I didn't reach the Marines until I was about 23 years old.
Okay,
Um,
so walk me into that yeah, walk me in there.
Yeah, so from, like, after graduating high school, I mean, I went and I worked on the east side of the state for a little while where I got introduced to cocaine,
Mhm.
and I was doing my dream job working with deer and elk in a breeding preserve and, uh, managing hunts type of thing. So that was what I was a hunter, I loved to do that, but I got introduced to cocaine out there from a girl I started dating that came from a very wealthy family that had access to a lot of things, and that started to destroy my life because it just took such a grip on me. Uh,
Mhm.
I went from being a big guy, about 230 pounds, down to like 160 pounds in very
Wow.
little time from just being so into it. So then I moved back home and I just partied. I just partied, 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 and chased women and fought and did all that stuff. And the longer I did it, the less fulfilled I was. It was like, anything that you experience that's great, that's sinful, the first time you do it, it's like this big ecstasy of amazing, like, "Whoa."
Yeah.
And then after that, you're always chasing that same high, that same level of ecstasy.
Mhm.
Nothing ever comes close to it, and it just gets
Mhm.
emptier and emptier, and then you start to see yourself the way you are, and you become depressed, anxiety-filled, ashamed, because certain things will start to happen that you'll be shamed from, waking up and having remorse for things, and then you get to a point where you're like, "I'm actually not happy, I'm depressed, and my life is going nowhere."
Yeah.
And it was at a
No, I
point.
mean, I think you said that perfectly in the sense of, like, essentially chasing the high, right?
Yeah,
Of, like, it didn't matter, like, whether it's a drug, a girl, or, a fight.
yeah,
It's an essential high the first time you do something, and then you're
yes,
never gonna reach that initial thing, so you have to essentially do more, sin more,
yeah.
do whatever that activity is to some different degree in order to try to fulfill that thing, even though it won't be fulfilled. And then, just like you said, you end up like eventually you look in the mirror and you just kind of see a destructive, destroyed, depressed, unfulfilled individual.
Yeah, you look in the mirror, like, I remember looking in the mirror, looking in my eyes, even when I was all messed up one night, and I'm like, "I don't even know who I'm looking at right now. I don't recognize this guy, I'm not proud of this guy. I was not happy with myself, I was ashamed." And I knew I had to change for quite a while, I knew I had to do something, and it wasn't until I had a after party when the bars closed that I had invited a girl over to my place that had just gotten out of the Marines, and, I was trying to hook up with her, to be honest with you, even though I
Mhm.
knew she had, like, it was a fiancé or a husband at the time. I was still trying to hook up with her, but zero respect for that man, right? Just feeling my own gratification and thinking if I can hook up with her, that makes me better than him, or I don't even know what.
Yeah.
But then he showed up. He showed up at my place, and he was a Marine too. And,
Yeah.
he had just gotten out. He was sitting in the corner of my house just nursing a beer, like, barely drinking, and I asked her, I'm like, "What's wrong with him?" And she says he had just gotten back from a deployment where he lost a whole bunch of his buddies, a whole bunch of his brothers, they died. And here I am, 23 years old, looking at this guy, and he's my same age. And I think of what he went through for me. And this is how I respect him. And this is what I'm doing at 23. I'm chasing after his girl, and I'm partying and doing nothing to be honorable, nothing to be respected, nothing
Mhm.
good in my life. And this guy went and put it all on the line. And now he's sitting there dealing with emotional scars and wounds for serving me, serving this country. And so something flipped in me. I was really messed up. I was drugged up, drunk, and something inside me clicked. And so it was that next morning that I went down and I enlisted in the Marine Corps to at least do my part going forwards.
Wow. No, I mean, that's a complete gut check, right? I mean, yeah, to be such a thing where you end up disrespecting the thing you respect, right? And that
Yeah.
I think that in itself is that's your turning point. And now going in the Marine Corps, I mean, you still have not walked with Christ in
No.
that sense, but I would say that sense of duty or honor is essentially kind of being reinstilled just off of that interaction that you saw or that turning point for yourself. What was kind of your experience in the military with your faith
So
or
when
non-existent? I mean,
it,
you can go into
so
that.
when I went in the Marine Corps, I say it like this: I believed in Jesus, right?
Hmm.
But me and him weren't brothers, if you know what I mean. We weren't
Yeah.
close. We were.
Yep.
It was like, okay, he's over there. I believe in him.
Mm.
He's out there doing his thing for some people, but he wasn't doing it for me at one time, and so I'm not relying on him. I'm gonna
Yep.
rely on my intelligence, my strength, my my driven personality, my intensity. I'm gonna rely on me.
Hmm.
However, I do believe in him, but I'm not really talking to him or caring about him. So when I went in, because I had no identity when I went into the military, I had no purpose, I had no value at that time of anything of importance because I was so empty from all the partying and everything.
Hmm.
When I go in the Marine Corps, I'm gonna do something that no matter what happens the rest of my life, I can be proud I did. Like, I did
Yes.
something good with my life,
Hmm.
at least for 4 years, if that's all I stay in. And I went in and I wanna be a machine gunner, I went infantry. So through boot camp, there was a lot of guys in boot camp, that you can hear some guys crying at night and some guys
Mm.
don't know what they got themselves into. I was 23, so the drill instructors were all like my age,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
looking at them like these are just dudes my age. And I'm like, I talk to guys before I get in. Like I knew people had gone through the Marines, and I watched, like Full Metal Jacket before I went
Mm,
to see what it's going to be like. And so when I understood that it's a game to get through boot
yeah.
camp, it's just a mental game. And so I handled it fine. Like that was no
Yep.
big deal. It was fun for me to watch the other guys and how they would react. Not, a lot of them coming from their mom and dad's home and straight into it.
Yeah.
It always seemed like the guys from like the hood or from hard upbringing seemed to do just fine, and it was the people that
Yeah.
came the easy homes that struggled the most, or
Yeah.
the
100%.
athletes that were naturally gifted, and everybody always praised them.
Yep. That's
But
funny.
so it was a good experience. But in the Marine Corps, I did what everybody else does. You're focused on mission, focused on training, and when you're not
Mm,
training and on mission, you're partying just as hard as you trained.
yeah.
So I thought I was a hard drinker before, but it upped my level of drinking and partying. And, the only time I really thought about God at all was when I was in Fallujah, Iraq at times,
Yeah.
because every day you're doing patrols out in the city of Fallujah, and, that's a very hostile city. And you're leaving the wire, and, I read the Bible. I got one of them little Bibles that you get that they hand
Mhm.
out, little desert storm Bibles they're all
Yeah.
colored with the camouflage.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
And, so I would read it sometimes. I spent more times reading, James Patterson, giving you a shout out to the author James Patterson, with these books on, Alex Cross on these detective novels because I didn't wanna think about where I was. It was a way
Mm,
to escape it and get off somewhere else. So I read a lot of those books, but only occasionally would I read the Bible. But again, through the Marine Corps, God wasn't really a big part. Now I had a drill instructor tell me, Mitch, I know you're a Christian. I can see it by the way you live and act around all these men. When I was in boot camp, he says, hold on to that as you go through the Marine Corps because they're going to try to rip that from you with everything you go through and everything you see. He says, and that'll keep you strong in the hard times. And I had a drill instructor when we were in second phase, up there doing all the humps through the hills. That when he
yep.
was next to me, he said that he could tell I was a Christian man because of just the way I act and conduct myself. I didn't think I did, but he saw it, so I knew that was always a part of me. There was an underlining thing that was in me,
Yeah.
but I tried
Just
not
like
to
a
rec
baseline that you can't get rid of, like some
Ye
form of what it doesn't matter if you burn a house down, right? It still has concrete at the bottom of
Yes.
it. Yeah.
S So it was like, I knew it was in me, but I felt like it was a hidden part or something I didn't tap into. One, because it also was like I didn't have time to focus on that, and I didn't wanna show weakness. I didn't, because I thought it was weak to be a Christian too, and in that world, you gotta be if a Christian, like, I'm sitting there thinking, "Thou shalt not kill," and here I am training to be a machine gunner, and,
Yeah.
like, when you're in the Marine Corps, all they talk about, the greatest glory in the world is to kill, kill, kill,
Kip Yeah.
right? So, you're running around with all that and a lot of non-believers and just everything goes with it. Yeah, it wasn't in my walk. There's a couple hard times when you're going through Fallujah that were real scary. I'm like, "God, if you're there, hear me now. Please protect me." The foxhole prayers and a couple.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, what's that I think there's, like, a picture or something along those lines where it's literally like somebody in the foxhole, there's no atheist inside a foxhole.
Yep,
Everybody's
yep.
praying.
Yep. So I did that,
Everybody
but
wants to
that
come
as soon as
home.
you get out of it, that quickly goes away, right? And
Yep.
you get surrounded by the mentality of the Marine Corps, the young Marines, and
Mhm.
you know what we do. It ain't biblical, that's for sure.
No, I think, the culture behind it is, like you had said, like, the Mitch story or whatever, your God became yourself in that sense, and then,
Yeah,
I think the Marine Corps, that the idealism behind it is just you can take on whatever, and it doesn't matter what it is, how big it is, how strong it is, it's like you're gonna go in and kick the door in and destroy it.
yeah,
And I think that kind of instills that same thing, what you're already talking about. It's like, no, I can take on whatever. I'm not afraid of those things. Like I've already done X, Y, and Z. Like, who are you to me? Like, I don't care.
yeah.
And so the self reliance of faith based, it doesn't. It may be back there, but it's not like the first thing you're thinking of. You're thinking of
No,
how you can take on it. How you can destroy it.
and it's the world you live in. The Marine Corps world is not
Oh yeah.
a faith-based area. It's hard training. It's making it into an animal, a fighting
Mm-hmm.
animal, with no
Yep.
emotion. Just all you want to do is they want to breed anger into you. And
Yeah.
so it's a very intense breed, anger and alpha world. And so
Mm-hmm.
there's no reason to get in touch with your emotions because emotions are
Mm-hmm.
gonna cause weakness and to make you
Mm-hmm.
ineffective. And if you're gonna feel emotion, it better be anger.
Yeah. No.
and so that's it, and so then you learn to compartmentalize, push everything away. I ain't got time for God because that means getting in touch with some feelings or having a weak spot. So it's just let's get harder and harder, and then when you do have emotions, drown them out with the alcohol with your boys.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, and we had talked about this on another one of our episodes. But I mean, you can see where alignment happens in the sense of what the view of Christianity was. Because even myself, I had the same viewpoint as what you just stated was you believe Christianity or what it meant to be a Christian was essentially a weak or soft spoken man, right? And I think that has been something that has been exploited and twisted because being a Christian man is something that's so much more powerful, right? Like, I mean,
yeah.
now that you know the things now,
Mhm.
there's such a there's a higher level of confidence, there's a higher level of strength, there's a higher level of tenderness. Like, I mean, any aspect of what it means to actually be a man really is what a Christian is.
Yes.
And that is not what was displayed or how it was essentially advertised. And so, because the way it was perceived growing up, it's like, no, I don't want that. I want that out, like you said, like it's the Marine mentality. You wanted the aggressive, anger, alpha male that can take on whatever. That's what you thought a man was. It wasn't the guy that can take on whatever, but was still soft spoken that can like
Yes.
literally defend whoever, like come in confrontation with whoever it is and still be calm and gentle and kind. Like
Yeah.
that's 10 times more powerful. That's diffusive rather than destructive. And that's what
Oh,
a
yeah.
man is. And so,
Yeah, and
yeah, go. Oh,
the
sorry,
church
go
I
for
grew
it.
up yeah, yeah, no, the church, because like, the church I grew up in, nobody had tattoos, right? Any leadership
Hmm.
men, all that stuff, they wore very business-like attire, no tattoos, hair all combed to one side with the right part, with the right
Hmm.
everything. They all had were soft-spoken men, like,
Hmm.
there was no masculinity one bit to them. And then as I
Hmm.
got older and went from the Baptist to non-denominational, they were very, almost, um there was a lot of feminine characteristics in the men,
Hmm.
and so they were very almost imagey and feminine and all these things. There was no, like, alpha masculine, there was no tattooed guys, there was no guys with deep gravelly voices, there was no guys that you would be like, "Oh, man, that dude's got a pair," you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they were just, they were like a lot of metrosexual men,
Yeah.
it would be the way to put it, and so when you I wanted to be a manly man growing up.
Hmm.
Boy, I wanted to be a manly man, and
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to be as I got older, and I saw my dad as a very masculine man, and I wanted to be like my dad in a lot of ways, and
Hmm.
other men I looked up to were very masculine men, you know? They were like the
Hmm.
construction worker type or the military type, and we see them come home. So it's like that's what I wanted to be, and none of that portrayed that. So that's why if I felt like if I was gonna be a Christian man in the Marine Corps, I had to be one of those, because you can be very loving and very soft and still be very masculine.
Yes.
Like, I don't have a very soft-spoken voice, like, I'm not like, and I don't look like a soft man,
No.
but I can get down and I can cry with any guy and feel for them and be right them with them right there when
Yeah.
they're with stuff, because 'cause I've been through my own. And so I
Hmm.
have a very soft heart, but that's the thing, King David, he could get down and cry with his men, but he was also a warrior in battle. He could go both ways,
You know?
right? And that's what real men can do. They can understand when the right time and the right place is to portray each thing.
Yes, 100%. You are, yeah, right on. And now I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. I just want to bring back up, kind of how, it doesn't matter where the walk is, there's similarities between stories, right? And, viewpoints, upbringing. But I know you were speaking before, you're in the military, and you've gone through two things, your mentality is changing. But I guess what's that transition point when, because you only did 4 years, correct?
Yep, 4 years.
Okay, so after that 4-year time period, after the Marine Corps, um, you're transitioning now, that brotherhood, I mean, you can still have that brotherhood aspect, but you're no longer around in that environment. What was your lifestyle change? What was going on during that period for the next, couple of years?
Okay. Yeah, so to set it up of what it was like to get out was like, okay, my first deployment, Fallujah, Iraq. I had my best friend committed suicide, attempted suicide there, but finished it stateside before we got home when he was with the battalion aide, whatever, where
Mhm.
they watch over all the guys that are wounded. He finished it with pills to overdose to finally take it. So he shot himself there and then overdosed with pills. So there's that hurt, your first loss of somebody.
Mhm.
And you got the shock and awe being in a war torn country and seeing all the things in your life being on thing. Then the next deployment was Thailand and Philippines. So Thailand, especially Sodom and Gomorrah, imagine that, the sex
Yeah.
trafficking and all the things you see going on there, because that's what everything was. And so you just see a lot of stuff. And then you get out of the military and you go to get out. And when I went to get out, I got out under the understanding of when I was getting out that my unit was going to go on another meal, another thing where they go to like Thailand, Philippines, no combat, right? And
Mhm.
so I didn't feel bad getting out because I was engaged and I was going to be getting married to a woman and she wanted, to raise a family and do all that. And so we decided that I'd get out. So I'm getting out, and that process of getting out, it's already a weird feeling because when the guys know you're getting out, it's just treated a little different. You kind of like
Yep.
standing in the sidelines watching them do all the stuff.
Mhm.
So it's already starting to feel a little bit of that
You're
separation.
second string. You're watching you're
Yeah.
watching the first string in the
Yep.
game. Yeah.
Yep. And so it's like you're just kind of out there. And so that was starting to feel weird already.
Mhm.
And then when I got out, their orders changed and they ended up going to Sangin, Afghanistan. And that's when the transition became very hard because one, as soon as I walked off the base, my identity was gone. As soon as I walked off the base, my last time being on base, when I finally left the gates and I was not coming back through them, it was the weirdest feeling. It was a mixed bag of feelings. There was I'm the freedom of knowing that, because there's a certain amount of politics and crap in the military you hate. You hate being treated like a grown kid, if you will. They want you to act like a man, but then they treat you like children with things in certain ways. And so it was just that
Yep.
freedom that felt good of that. Oh, I don't have that weight on my shoulders anymore. The excitement of the adventure of what it's going to be like to start over again, to be out there out of it. What's that look like? But then when you don't know what you are anymore, because you're like, I'm not, I guess I'm a Marine because once a Marine, always a Marine, they say, but I don't want to have that uniform. I don't have a unit anymore. I don't have anybody to
Mm.
check in with. I don't have the guys around me. It
Mhm.
crept in really quick, a lot quicker than I thought. And so
Yeah.
I started suppressing it with saying, I'm celebrating, but really it was, I need to start covering up some of these emotions I don't want to deal with and know how to deal with that I've collected over the 4 years while in the Marine Corps and the things I've experienced.
Mhm.
And now this new thing. So I started drinking right away heavy, not knowing who I am, where I'm going, or what I'm doing in a lot of ways. And it was getting married.
Is this worse than in the Marine Corps?
Yes, because at least in the Marine Corps, you go out to the field and you get away from it for a little bit. At least in the Marine
Yep.
Corps, you get deployed, you get away from it for a little bit. You got to
Mhm.
be sober while in uniform, and different things like that. Now it was just get out
Whatever.
whenever you want,
Yep.
live your life, and just don't get caught by the police or do anything too bad. It's going to cause too much trouble. So I started getting into the drinking again right away to start suppressing a lot of feelings. I knew I had a job waiting for me and all that stuff, but it was going back being a custodian at a high school. So you go from, being in a respected, pride filled unit to being a
Mm.
custodian, cleaning up high
Mhm.
school, pee on the floor,
Yep.
and how that all looks. So you lose your identity. You got no more pride, and then you got all these things. And then when your unit goes into place to saying in Afghanistan, they lost 25 guys in combat and over 200 wounded in action. And every day I'm getting phone calls and texts of who got killed or who got hit.
Mhm.
And I'm going down to the recruiter station with tears in my eyes, bawling, saying, "Can you get me back with my guys?" And they're like, "We can't get you with them. That'd be impossible. We can get you with them when they come back if you want to come back in, but
Yeah.
we can't get you over there with them." I'm like, "Well, what's the point of that?"
Yep.
So I'm going to funerals of guys that I'm very close to, and it's just nonstop. And that's when the drinking and the drugging got real bad because that happened. I got out in the I got out around winter time, and by that fall, um, the phone calls were coming in. So I had like 5 months before it hit, and so I was drinking a little bit, right? But then when they went there, I went downhill. That's when I got prescribed Xanax and they'd give you 90 bars a month, which is the full amount that they can give you. And I was getting those. I was
Mhm.
ordering from Canada, plus drinking a fifth a day with it, plus. taking
Yeah.
any other drugs I can get and stacking them with all my antidepressants and all these different things. I mean, I was a mess.
Bottom
And that
barrel.
yeah, and that went on for 3 years. Losing my identity, not knowing my purpose in life. All my friends are getting killed and wounded. I'm not there with them when I should be. That guilt of not being there is like, I know the guys that went there, they got troubles from the combat they saw. But the
Mhm.
guilt of not being there with them and getting on those phone calls and seeing them when they return, some of them you don't recognize because they're so blown up and so scarred up. And then the ones that didn't lose any physical limbs, they don't even look like themselves because 'cause they're so hollow in the eyes, like, they literally look like they just went to hell and came back.
Mhm.
Transformation in their faces, the hollow eyes, the everything. It was the absolute hardest thing that I've ever endured.
So,
Emotion
oh, yeah, I mean, I can't imagine, the whole idea of the Marine Corps, right, is brotherhood, and so you
yeah,
live and die by that entire saying. And for you to see your brothers one way and for you to have that essential freedom, is just like it's it's like watching through a window, your best friend getting beat up and you're not there, getting in the
yeah,
fight. And so witnessing that, and then the self-destructive mentality of drinking drugs for a multitude of years is, obviously a destructive path that any course is going to go on. But eventually you ended up finding Christ.
I
How did
did.
you find Christ?
I did. So during this time, because I have a family and I'm trying to do it the way I was raised, I'm married to
Hmm.
this woman and we have like a time when we got married, a 6-year-old boy. We were still going to church most
Okay.
Sundays,
Yep.
hungover or even drunk at it, except
Hmm.
drinking before I even went to church, had some shots
Hmm.
just to take the
Yep.
edge off. But I was still showing up.
Hmm.
During this time, our marriage fell completely apart. She left and went back to Arizona where her family is. I continued drinking, tried to do some overdoses, tried to commit suicide a couple times through overdose. Ended up spending a year in a mental health hospital.
Wow.
So not a year straight, but I was at the Battle Creek VA, living in mental health, and I'd be in there for like 3 months in a certain unit. They'd let me out. I'd get out. I'd get a DUI. So I got 3 DUIs in 1 year every time they let me out. I tried overdose. My last time that they let me out before going back in again, I tried to do suicide by cop. I had a standoff with 5 Ottawa County deputies for 45 minutes.
I
That
mean,
caused,
that's literally just calling like, "I'm done." You're
yeah,
checking out. You
yeah,
no longer wanna be here, no purpose, no reason, no identity.
yep.
Their life is essentially meaningless.
I was so tired and so full of pain. I just didn't want to live. I wanted peace. And I thought death was the only peace I'd receive. And that's where I was. I was just tired and I
Yeah.
wanted peace. And I thought death would give me peace. So they didn't kill me, obviously. I'm still here and talking to you.
Yeah. Thank God for that, brother. Thank God for
Yeah.
that.
But I ended up going back to the VA hospital for my last stint. I was in there for about 8 months on this stint. And during my time in there, someone that I grew up with that lived in near the area brought me a book, Battlefield of Mine by Joyce Myers.
Mhm.
And she says, "You've been trying all these other things, Mitch, and you're not getting better. This book helped me. How about can you just read it, give it a shot? Promise me you will. Otherwise, I'm not going to give it to you." I'm like, oh man, this is Joyce Myers. That's a chick, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
What's a chick going to help me with, right? Like some girl,
Yeah,
like I'm not, and it's about God, right? So I'm like,
yeah.
this is the guy I've been running from and
Mhm.
not wanting to deal with. She gave me the book. I decided to read it because I promised her I would, and I got to be a man of my word. So I started reading it while I'm living in a mental health hospital. They tried electric convulsive therapy to me that damaged my brain a bunch. They had given me every pill there is. They've given me every kind of counseling there is, and nothing did any good. And I'm living in there thinking, when I get out of here, I will kill myself for sure. I'm just done. And I read that book, and I found that I've tried everything there is but giving my life back to God. So I got about three-quarters of the way through the book, and I hit my knees in my room in that mental health hospital. I said, Lord, if you can get me out of here, if you can get me out of here, I will give my life to you. And you got to understand, when I was in there, I'm facing my 4 total DUIs that I haven't gone to court for, felony assault on police officers for that suicide by cop situation where I had the standoff, multiple drug charges, weapons charge. I'm over $100,000 in debt due to credit card debts I didn't know about that had gotten charged up under my name. All the criminal charges and lawyer fees that were up. I lost my house. I lost my job. Couldn't work for the school systems when you got all these things going on in your life. I lost everything and I'm in debt and I'm got a credit score of like a 420. I got all these charges faced when I get out. I got no hope, no future,
Nothing. Yeah.
nothing.
That's
And within 48 hours, my debt was erased. The criminal stuff, the not ever being able to drive again the rest of my life, all these things, all these doors started to open, things started to happen immediately. And I knew what the Lord wanted me to do. He wanted me to minister to veterans and to other men and stuff. And I thought to myself, with the guys that I was raised up in church, never seen a tattoo on any of them, and here I am in a mental health hospital with all these charges, with all tatted up, you know, all this stuff that doesn't look like the way I grew up with people that do ministry. I'm like, how is it even possible for me to do this stuff? And I was scared. I didn't want to do it because that was my greatest fear, um, to have to do ministry because look where I was, look who I had become, and but I knew I had to. But I ran from it for a while. But that's when everything started to change in my life, and it didn't change as in like I became a super sober guy right off the bat. I didn't change, or I didn't struggle with pornography or something right off the bat. But something inside me shifted, and when that shift occurred, I started getting hungry for Him. I started getting
mm,
knowledge. I started getting hungry for relationship, and I didn't even know I was hungry for the relationship. But the more I learned, the more I wanted relationship. I thought it was first. I was like old school. I thought it was like all about religion, about rules, and all this stuff.
yeah.
And as I understood Him and learned about Him, it's not about rules at all. We're here on Good Friday right now
Yes.
because He loved us so much and wants a relationship with us so much that He left the heavens. He left a kingdom. He left perfection to come down here to be a servant among men, to get mistreated by His own people, to get tortured, and to die a horrific death just to have that relationship with us. And it's like, that's why I'm here today, because He loved me enough to not let me die from those suicide attempts. He loved me enough to let me get to my bottom, where I'm laying flat on my back in a mental ward, basically looking up and saying, Lord, get me out of here. He loved me enough to let me get to my end so that He could begin to work in my heart and on me, to start guiding me into His truth and into His love. And it's like, I needed to go through all that to find Him.
Brother, first of all, I just want to thank you. I mean, um, like raw emotion, the feeling, it's real. Like it's, uh, and what's funny is, I've heard your testimony before. You're still gonna make me cry. It's such a beautiful, triumphant story, in the sense of, to damnation to salvation, right? The best way you
Yeah.
can put it. From you literally saying, like, it doesn't matter. I'm getting out of here and I'm checking out. I'm gone. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Done everything else. Nothing else can help. No worldly thing is helping me. I'm done. And it's funny. I'm definitely going to share this one with my mom because she loves Joyce Meyer. She shares stuff like clips
Yeah.
of her all the time. It's just crazy the impact and the promise that you made to somebody that cared about you, right? Because they cared and loved you and said, just this changed me or helped me. I love you enough. Will you do it?
Yeah.
And you honoring your essentially just having the ability to say, "You know what? I'm gonna honor my word because I
Yeah.
said I would do it. I don't believe you, but I'm gonna honor my word to you because, you know, y I said yes." And then just simply reading a story that essentially broke you down in order to humble yourself to ask for help.
Yeah.
And that's really what it comes down to. It is, you know, laying your life at the foot of the cross. The whole idea of Mitch wasn't God. He had to die. He died, and then Christ gave you life.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, after that request or that saying, "You get me out of here, my life is yours." And the gradual change, even though things did happen relative, like some things happen soon, but not every.
Yeah.
It's not like you gave your life and all of a sudden, wow, hey, I'm a millionaire, and I've got this cozy little life, and everything's gravy. Because that's not what a Christian is. That's not what giving your life to Christ is, right? So I guess tell me a little bit about that because there's huge blessings that come with Christ, right?
Yes.
Of giving your life. But I think the idea behind giving your life to Christ, it's not that battles don't happen. It's not that the fights, the hurt, because you still have all those brothers that are lost. You
Yes.
still have all those other people that that are battling PTSD and different traumas that they had gone through. Like those are still there. It's not like he took away everything that you feel. You just fight differently now. And tell me how you fight now versus how you fought then.
Oh, so yeah, that's a loaded one because
Yeah, sorry. It's a bigger
no,
question than a
no, but it's a good one because I've watched other guys too that have found Christ, and I watched their transition in life, and we all transition differently. I've seen guys who overnight addictive problems, different things in their life completely went away. Like they never even had another desire to drink again or to drug again or this or that. I've seen the miraculous where it's a 180 transition overnight. Mine
Mhm,
has been a slow death to I guess a slow death to the flesh and a slow growing into the new life I have, living into
that's a
my
good way to
new the new Mitch, the real Mitch, the one that God intended. So I still have struggled even after I got out of mental health hospital. I struggled with I got back on painkillers and like oxys and different things again for a while, abusing those real heavily. I struggled with drinking again. Um, but not consistent. I'd go through seasons where I would get overwhelmed because you got to remember after I got out of that hospital, I still had guys committing suicide
mhm,
I served with that were either served over in Sangin, Afghanistan, and were having a hard time with it, committing suicide yet, or guys who didn't deploy with them over there that were struggling with things and committing suicide. And I say because I stopped counting, but at one point, um, between them and even like the guys that I met when I was in the VA hospital, the military guys I got it close to, I mean, the number is up close to 40 between of suicides and overdoses and just deaths in general from guys living recklessly and getting killed
mhm,
on top of the guys that lost in combat. So I struggled with my growth, but I didn't know where to search. I really didn't know where to search to get the truth. I mean, I'd read the Bible, but sometimes when you read the Bible, it's hard to understand the things that are going on
yeah,
with my simple mind. So I started flipping houses, not wanting to go in ministry because I was still scared. I didn't know enough about God to minister and all that stuff. But we'd hire homeless guys, speak to them, and I had seen some significant changes in some of the homeless guys. One guy got out of prison after murdering somebody, had been in there for 35 years, murdered a guy with his brother at 17, got out and he found Christ and he was doing great and speaking at things. But I knew I wasn't doing what God called me to do.
mm,
So then I was like, all right, God, I'm going to make you happy. I won't go and do ministry, but I will go to a Christian college, right? And I'll go be a counselor for veterans, but I'll do a Christian counselor, but not ministry. So I ended up going to a Christian college. And when I was at that Christian college, I had to go for psychology. I had to go and job interview some people and like job shadow and just kind of enter to a few different organizations. And I found a place at that time I was married and uh, my mother-in-law at the time said, "Hey, there's this Steve Prince guy with Warrior Set Free." So I was like, "Oh, yeah, I'll go job shadow this guy. It'd be a good one. Perfect, right? Veterans, ministry, whatever. Let's go check it out." So we had lunch and he's like, "You should come in, check out a freedom appointment, what we do." And at this time, I've been still reading the Bible, going to church. I've been listening to podcasts, but not necessarily spiritual based, but some of the guys were believers, but it wasn't necessarily as about going being your best self, but it wasn't necessarily all Christ based, but they were believers.
yeah, yep,
So I'm growing a little bit here and there, personal development stuff. But one thing I gotta say is when I read that book too, I should say, and I gave my life to Christ, it was the first time that I can remember since I was real young that I felt hope.
Mm,
And the reason why was committing suicide and doing all these things is because I had no hope left. And I was tired and I wanted it all to end and find peace. So when I came to Christ, I found hope again. I didn't necessarily find all the peace I wanted, but I found hope. And when you got just a tiny little bit of hope, it can make you go a long ways.
yes.
So I knew that as I found out more about Christ and as if all these things are to come true, and as I was looking for him, as I was going to that Christian college, which started to make me understand some more things with things I had to read and study, my hope, like it's like kind of like a light at the end of the tunnel way out there, right? You just see this tiny little dot of light and you're going towards it. And as you get closer, it just gets bigger and it starts to illuminate more around you, right? So as I drew closer to Christ, what happened is I'm getting closer to this light where it starts to illuminate more about me, but also more about the world around me for both the good and
Mm,
the right.
yeah. That's
And
a good
so
way
as
of
I
putting
drew
that.
closer, I started to see more and understand more. And as I got closer, I also understood, wait, he's there looking for a relationship. And so when I met Steve Prince and this freedom appointment thing, I was excited for it. I was going to go watch someone go through something that I was very curious about. I was under, and I might have heard him wrong because I'm a slow learner and a quick forgetter. So I might have heard him wrong or mistook something, but I thought I was going to watch somebody go through a freedom appointment. When I
Yeah.
walked into that office, it was my freedom appointment that I was going to witness. And in 5 hours in that freedom appointment, I got more done than all the years in the VA, more than all the pills, more than all the other things I was trying in life. I got more done in that one day in 5 hours than all of that combined. And I
All right.
ended,
So I don't, I'm not, I don't want to cut you off because I want to hear more.
yeah,
Um, how is 5 hours of talking essentially, right?
yeah.
How is that more productive or more fulfilling or like, how can you be fulfilled more or, move to that next level 5 hours? Like you got like an 8, 10 year span of destructive being. How can you shorten that 5 hours and that be so helpful?
Because I got to sit down with Christ.
Mm,
I got to sit in his presence, talk to him, and let you know I didn't share. I probably only gave about 50%, 60%, maybe 40%. I don't know. I only let out so much because I didn't know the guys in the room. And I still struggled with trust issues. And since I wasn't prepared, because I had to fill out some stuff before I went in there that told about me, I left it all blank. I wasn't letting anybody know anything about me. And when I went in there, I only handled half maybe of all the things that I had inside me. But it was like reaching into me all the things that I was carrying and pulling it out and just handing it to Christ and him taking it from my hands and carrying it off and saying, "You don't need to carry that anymore. I got it." And so it was freeing. It felt like a
yeah.
weight lifted off me. It was, I mean, it's as dumb as it sounds. When I walked outside of that apartment, out of that appointment, I looked at the sky, I looked at things, and I just saw things differently. And everything sounded different. And I felt different. I felt lighter. I felt like I was heard. I felt like I was seen. And I was free from so much at that moment already. And as crazy as it sounds, like I just remember I didn't necessarily listen to a lot of like worship music or Christian music. 'Cause I wasn't necessarily listening to Godsmack or Tool or, you know,
Yeah.
Five Finger Death Punch anymore. But I wasn't necessarily listening to Christian. I was like being country music or classic rock a little bit. And then I started going, I'm like, what am I listening to? Even when I left that appointment, I turned on Christian music and I was just thankful to hear praise to the Lord. Everything started to shift again. And I'm like, something just happened and it was very real. It wasn't a
Mhm.
placebo effect. It wasn't none of that. It was real. And I felt like God was calling me. So then I remember I just said to Steve, I says, how do I get involved with this? And so I immediately started training up to do freedom appointments and jumped into it. And that was that was the real beginning for me. Like, the
Mm,
other things were shifts in life, if you will. Like, when I read that
yeah.
book in the mental health, that was a shift. It got me going the right direction.
Mhm.
Then when I went to that Christian college, it added some a little bit more steam. But right as I'm heading a certain way and I got great intentions, God was like, I'm going to shut this door and I'm going to use this trajectory of what you think is the right way and what you want to do.
Yeah.
And I'm going to shift it and lead you into something better because I'm going to take you from over here, but I'm going to bring you over here. And when he did that, that's what led me to Warrior Set Free. And that was really a launching point. Like, I still had struggles with drinking and different things during that. I still have flesh that I'm still trying to pick up my cross and die to my flesh every day. I still
Mhm.
have things, but that was when the growth and the downloads and like Steve and Dean Vandermeer and different guys, that's when everything started speaking to me. And they're like, he wants relationship with you. This is how you have relationship. Let me walk into what that looks like. Let me tell you how. And they just,
Mhm.
it was like in the military, right? You got your boots that come in, the new guys, the boots,
Yeah.
and you got your salt dogs, your senior lance corporals and your corporals, right?
Yeah.
And they teach them more to how to be a Marine than boot camp ever did.
Oh,
Right.
100%. Yeah.
Right. So they get in their units and they teach these guys how to do everything, how to be a Marine, how to do all their stuff. Right. And that's what it was like coming into Warrior Set Free. They taught me how to be the man of God, how that
Mm.
looks, how to be in that relationship. I didn't just, Christ might have came into me. I might have been a Christian when, I gave my life to the Lord. But just like you might have became a Marine when you're in boot camp, but a boot Marine looks a lot different than a guy that's been 4 years in, 8 years in, and different the way they
Mhm.
walk, talk, carry themselves, and act. Right. You gotta
100%.
learn you gotta learn to be a Marine. Well, I was a Christian, don't no doubt about it, just like that young kid, that young private has a Eagle Globe and Anchor on him with US
Yep.
Marines on his chest. He's no different than the guy that's been in 20 years when it comes to being a Marine. They're both Marines. But I
Yeah.
learned what it's like to grow and live and become a Christian man and how
There
that
you
looks
go.
walking, talking, acting, and living like.
Yeah. No,
And so
100%. And yeah, you're spot on with that. And I mean, with your story, I mean, that's where your exponential, basically, it's like, the initial sign of a contract, your pulley whatever the program is, boot camp, all that, your school, and then your exponential growth is like you're in the fleet.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then
that's
you
when the
get to
rubber
your
hits the road.
yeah, and then you may have a deployment or 2, and then you get some real experience behind you, and you're like, "No, man, now I can actually walk with you. Now I've
Yeah,
experienced Christ while going through different trials." And I think that's the beauty of it, right? I mean, even for myself um, I say more with relationships, right? Like, especially with my wife. Um when we first started our relationship, we both wanted a transition or at least a different type of relationship. Like, we didn't live like Christ before, and now we were like, you know what, I want to try that. And we were just walking in it, and we still destroyed each other.
yes,
But it wasn't until we both like really took what Christ had for us and what our roles were within our relationship. Where like now, don't get me wrong, like we still have conflict, and it may not be great or anything along those lines, but we handle it different. And when we put Christ at the forefront, like we're able to humble ourselves and say, you know what? I was wrong here. I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. Will you forgive me? And I think that's the beauty of it. And um, with your freedom appointment, um, that's the shame, that's the guilt. I think everybody loves their shame and their guilt for all the wrongs, and even if it wasn't their own effect, right? Like it, and I mean, half the stuff you held on to had nothing to do with you. It was what was happening to other people, but you had shame and guilt, and so
yeah,
you're gonna grasp onto that, and then letting those things go and allowing Christ to take it, because he can carry it.
yeah.
He died for us. That's the whole purpose. And like you said, the relationship is the relationship's the key. If you had
Relationship is key.
anything to offer anybody, it's the relationship.
Yes,
People
yes,
people think about church. People think about all these different, because there's so many different denominations, and they're like,
yep,
"Oh, church isn't for me. It's religious. I don't care." It's reli- Jesus was a Jew, right?
yeah,
But he was like, it's about my relationship and how we treat our neighbor, how we treat each other. And that's the Christian form. That's the Christian, reli- religion isn't the aspect, it's the relationship. That's what saves you. How close are you to your
Yes.
brother? How close are you to your father? Right.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
and now,
Absolutely. Yeah. Religion's man-made.
you know, And,
Oh, go
so
ahead.
I guess with oh, no, I was just saying with your testimony and just from how you come and how you are in ministry, and now you got like, um, now you get to actually disciple other men that are the broken, the lost, the one, and you get to bring them back into the fold of the 99. And what does that do to your faith?
Oh,
How does
it's
that
one of
increase?
the greatest.
Oh, go for it.
That's
Sorry.
it's one of the greatest honors that you could ever have is to walk with another man, um,
Mhm.
pointing to Christ the whole time, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like Christ is entrusting you with another man's heart, one of his children, and he's saying, "Son, all I want you to do is to lead my other son to me. Just show him how to
Mhm.
get to me, how to talk to me, how to reach me, and do it through the way in which you love and act and conduct yourself." And it's just an honor to represent Christ in everything you do because it's not Mitch doing anything, just like it's not Chase doing anything. Yes, we have to say
100%.
yes and we have to submit to certain things, but it's Christ working in each one of us and through each one of us.
Yes.
I mean, honestly, the only reason why either one of us found Christ is because he called us to him.
100%.
And
Call us by name, right?
yep, and we're just humble enough to to uh to allow him to continue to work in us and give him all all the glory, all the credit, and all the honor.
Mhm.
And in that meantime, we get to watch what he does in other men, and that is a blessing
Yes.
in itself, and it's an honor to be a part of that.
Mm.
And it's great because it also helps keep you held accountable to keep walking in your faith. But as you see him work again, this is not like the drugs and the alcohol I used to do in the past where I was chasing that same high.
Mhm.
Every time that I get closer to him, every time I get a hit of the Holy Spirit, if you will,
Yeah.
every time I down another, you know, another big gulp of Christianity
Yeah.
and what Christ has done for me, the higher I get in the best way, the better I feel in
Yes.
the best way. There is no down to it where I'm chasing that first high. It's only getting stronger and better as it goes. It's the exact
No, I love
opposite
the
of
way
what
you
the devil portrays.
yes. No, I love the way you put that together because, I mean, it's so true. It's, once you actually make that proclamation or that, that devotion towards Christ of giving your life towards him and then that walk, and then just like this, this wasn't something I ever anticipated, but it's, uh, stories like your testimony increases my faith, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty behind this is, like you said, you get to walk with other men, and not only does Christ get to work in you, and hopefully you get to spill into others, but it's the others that pour into you that just it's such a uh, it's a poetic, beautiful uh, symphony of love and compassion for your fellow man, and allowing them to really break into that fold. And I know we're coming up on time here, so we can close here. But Mitch, I just want to, for one, I thank you for being a part of my walk. Thank you for continue to keep me accountable. I know my family appreciates whenever I fall off the fold. I can always a phone call away. But it is a true honor, and what a glorification of how Christ has worked within you and your testimony. And for anybody that's listening, I just ask if Mitch's testimony hits home for you, or you hear this and you know that there's a fellow brother or sister out there that this relates to or is compelling, please share with them. We only do that because we care and love about you, even though we don't know you. You are a excuse me, fellow brother in Christ, and we want you to come back in the fold, and we don't want you to hold on to that pain anymore because there's no reason to. Um, and so we know better. But before I close, Mitch, is there anything that I can pray for you specifically for this week?
Um, Basically just, I will always take prayers because we know how spiritual warfare works as you're doing the Lord's work. you're going to come under attack and he's going
Mm,
to try to do things. So just for protection,
yeah.
as we move forwards in these seasons that are coming up, as we're fighting for other warriors and other men to meet Christ. But the last thing I just want to say before we leave, because it is Good Friday, and I feel like this is the moment that for you, but also for every listener out there that hears this, there's just two
100%.
there's two things the devil can never touch. He can never touch these because these have the power. And that is one, the first, the most important, that is the blood of Jesus Christ. And that's what he went to the cross for today, about 2,000 years ago, was to spill his blood for our forgiveness, to cover us with his blood so that we can be saved. And the other thing that can't be touched, that the devil can never touch, is the power of our testimony. And today we just heard a testimony, right? The testimony, I just gave my testimony, and this is what you've been doing. So everybody out there, you all have a testimony. Talk about the blood of Jesus Christ and what it's done for you, and tell them what that blood has done in your life, and encourage somebody else to give them the hope to come to Christ, to lead them back to lead them back to our Father, to let them know that they do have hope out there, because that's what we're all seeking, is hope. And only his blood can give us that. So
100%. Thank you so much for sharing that, Mitch.
absolutely.
And yeah, let me pray for you. Our Father in heaven, we praise your holy name. We want to thank you so much for what you have done, not just for us individually, but what you have done for everyone. I especially want to uplift Mitch to you. He is a special son, a special gift, and may you continue just to fill him with the Holy Spirit so he can pour into each of his fellow, what his calling is, his fellow brothers, to bringing people back into the fold. And we just place a hedge of protection over him, place a hedge of protection over Warriors Set Free and that foundation, so they can continue to do the outreach and ministry that they are called to do. We say all this in the power of the Lord Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Now, as we close, everyone, again, this is Testimony Strong, sponsored by VET S.O.S. There's several other channels that VET S.O.S has, all about transitioning for veterans. So that it's not just a spiritual channel; it is all encompassing about you and your life. So please check them out. And yes, we are the 99 about the one. So again, if this hit home for you, or you know somebody that it would hit home for, please share it. And this is not to glorify myself or Mitch. It is only glory to Christ for what he has done for us. And that's why we're here today. So thanks again. And I hope to see you next time.